Every few years, like clockwork, you see something big coming out of Dallas. Usually, Paul Quinn College is associated with national headlines on everything from philanthropy to community outreach and academic engagement and development for its students. And we are privileged to be joined this evening by President of Paul Quinn, Dr. Michael Sorrell, and Amanda Washington. She is the director of and I want to make sure I get this right, the Global Urban Work College Network. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you, brother. It's always good to be with you.
Everybody's on parent duty. We see Mr. President in the car at track practice. I just put some babies down. Dr. Washington just put some folks down. So if you hear some children crying, it's one of the three of us. Mike's is older than I think Miss Washington, so we're good. What I will start off with saying, Doc, first, a big celebration on campus this previous week. You're unveiling new construction. You're unveiling new programming. All kinds of things happen with your donor network. As usual, the Dallas Symphony Orchestra is in the house. What is it like for the community to see a true evolution of an institution that it is in its own right, for as much growth as you've had, is still growing exponentially? Is Dallas, in lockstep with the way that you guys move and the kinds of celebration and the kinds of achievements that you make? And are they just all bought in at this point?
Oh, I think so. I think, what's happened for us is we took a different approach to the pandemic. And that's not unusual. I mean, you've been covering us for 14, 15 years. We take a different approach to everything. And we thought about the pandemic and said, what, if we're reading this correctly, we don't think we can do the job we want to do, keep our students safe the way we would like to safe, if we bring them back before there's a vaccine. And so we thought about it proactively and said, if we were to have students on campus for 15 to 18 months, what could we become? And we thought, let's remake the entire school. Now, to your point about Dallas has become to us pushing the envelope and expecting us to do different things. And we're entering a phase now where Dallas is fully bought in. We're seeing partnership opportunities coming at us with a level of intensity that we haven't seen before. Now, some of that is because of the era that we are in now, right? Like it's become cool to engage with HBCUs. That's all across the country. So it's a little difficult to separate what's caused it, but what I can tell you is that when people showed up on our campus last week and realized everything that we had done in 15 months, right? We've finished 2 new buildings, the first new buildings in literally 50 years on the campus. We've added 2 schools, a K-12 network with the Oak Cliff School, and then Dallas Independent School District put a school, International Baccalaureate Academy, from 6th to 12th grade on the campus. We added 3 new majors, our first graduate program, that to hedge our bets, said the Lord would be pleased with us. We partnered with Bishop T.D. Jakes to do that. We hired Amanda to create, to build out our whole global urban college network, and we added our first partner institution to that. We've redone all the infrastructure. Every building on campus has some construction going on. And the best part to me of all, we're even fixing the creek on campus and turning that into a water section. But the best part about all of this for us is that with the exception of the dorm, everything's paid for. So the new project we paid roughly about $20 million for the new dorm, to the new residence hall. I want to make sure that my student life people don't come get me. The new residence hall and the new health and wellness center. All what we have left is around $6.5–7 million of debt service to pay on that, and that's the only debt that we have at the institution.
Ms. Washington, Doc talked about the build out of some of that programming in the work college model. We know that PQC is the first historically Black institution with that model. and has pioneered it successfully. So what does that look like from a drill down perspective of, you know, the institution kind of pioneering what this looks like in a historically Black context, and then larger when you think about what the nation is going to need post pandemic in terms of students affording college, being more prepared to get jobs that are becoming constricted in how much, you know, how many people can get a job and what kind of skills they'll need. What does that look like at the short and big picture as it relates to Paul Quinn's success with it?
Yeah, so nationally, what we know is that after graduation, about 53% of college graduates are either unable to immediately find a job or a job within their, their chosen major or their chosen field. And so for us, this means that we directly address the need for students who have historically been underprivileged, whether it be through cycles of generational poverty, whether it be through underexposure, or the both of these. So for us, that really means that we're exposing our students before they even graduate, before they're out of the door of Paul Quinn College, to jobs that directly align with their majors, with their fields of study and fields of interest. And not only that, but we expose them to fields and to jobs, to corporations, to people that they might not have been exposed to otherwise, just given what we know historically about the demographic of student that we are working with at Paul Quinn College. So I think in real time, not only are we combating the idea of, the impediment to professional and social mobility within corporate America, right outside of graduation, but we're also bringing students right to the jobs and the opportunities that we really think that they can fulfill and that they can excel in and combat generational poverty in after they graduate from Paul Quinn College.
For both of you, do you think that there is an emerging strength in being a smaller institution? So for so many years, we've thought about colleges as economic anchors, and you got to get big to make sure that you're doing your part to power an economy, to attract more students, to get more resources. But now we're seeing that fewer and fewer people are going to college every year. Selectivity is going to be at a premium because of what it's going to take to recover post-pandemic. Is there a level of strength, and I would ask this to both of you, in being smaller, in being 500,000, 1,500 students, and being able to have a hands-on impact to, I guess, more effectively deploy resources? Is there an advantage to that?
So what I'll say about that is, one, we have always thought that there was an advantage to be small. We never sought to artificially become large just for the sake of becoming large. What we did think, regardless of the size of your enrollment, you could have an outsized presence in your community. So yes, we don't have 1,000 students, but it's hard to find an institution, especially in our area, that does more for the community than we do. And, we did a COVID-19 testing clinic where we tested something like 8,000 people. We did a food giveaway program all summer, gave away, I think it was 5,000 or 6,000 boxes of food, thousands of gallons of milk. I mean, we continuously, we've got 2 schools. I don't care how big an institution you have, I challenge you to find anywhere, both inside the historically Black college and university sphere and outside of it, to find a school with both a charter school, high school, and a public school on their campus, right? So student size doesn't have to mean, your lack or your modest student size doesn't mean that you have a modest impact. This is about what you design and how you implement your design to impact the greatest number of people.
Yeah, and I would echo that for what we're doing for the Global Urban Work College Network. So we know that the traditional higher education model, though there might be many students in one school, just the way that it's set up, it does little to speak to the impediments and in turn the disparities that many students are traditionally facing within these institutions and within these environments. And so because Paul Quinn College is a smaller college, the way that I've heard it say, and Prez, you tell me if this is not how you feel about it, but because Paul Quinn College is a smaller college, there's more opportunity to be flexible, to be nimble, to try things, to see if it really fits and aligns with the needs of the students. And because Paul Quinn College has done that and has found in the Work College program, in the flexibility of, the ability to instill and install the Work College program, there's that opportunity to bring that to bear in other institutions as well that are very similar to Paul Quinn College, but have not been able to try some of the things that Paul Quinn College has tried and found success in with their student population.
Let's talk about philanthropy real quick, Doc, because I think you and I have talked offline, and several presidents have talked offline. This is a good opportunity for HBCUs. Not that we're rich, but we are better than we were a year ago. Even under morbid, tragic circumstances, the result is we're a little bit more stable than we were before. That's a good thing. But is it, or can it be misleading when we think about what the earmarks are for that, what the decisions that revolve around that kind of stuff, the pressure that goes along with a Mackenzie Scott, where you're always waiting around to see if you're going to be on the hit list for her, and you look at what you guys are doing and it hasn't gotten there yet. Are there drawbacks to even this being a propitious time for HBCUs?
Oh, I think, Jared, I think that one of the challenging aspects of our community is we've been without for so long that we developed a scarcity mindset. And so, I look at it, and let me just say this. I'm so excited for the institutions that have received funding from Mackenzie Scott. Many of those presidents I know, and I'm just like, they're working hard, they're doing great things, and I celebrate that. And I celebrate the way that they are able to take that and leverage it and make other things happen for themselves, right? Like, I think that's extraordinary. I look at it from our perspective, we're not one of the institutions that have received that tap on the shoulder yet. Right? But okay, I mean, we're just doing what we've always done, which is create game-changing programs that challenge the fundamental assumption of all of education. And what we have always known, and what we are starting to see candidly, is there is a significant number of people out there that it's starting to make sense with, right? Like, so we turned our attention outside the traditional philanthropic circles a while ago, and we understood that it was going to take a minute for it to take root, and it is starting to take root now. And I love the sustainability of the model that we have. So I think that if people are sitting around waiting, thinking, when is it our turn? When is it our turn? When is it our turn? I would just encourage them to just say, this is an incredibly liberating moment. What are things that we would love to do that we probably were going to have a bit of a challenge selling before? Let's go sell them now. Like, let's jump at it now so that we can perhaps find people who want to be our allies, want to be our advocates. I think it's a great time. I think this will go down in history, one of the very best times. But I think it's upon us to maximize this moment in creative ways.
And then the final question for both of you, what does the future look like? So, oftentimes we have these conversations. I think that we're poised in our sector to see a lot of turnover with leadership, because you've been through, there are a couple presidents who've been long serving, and they're on the tail end of a pandemic, and they're saying, enough, I'm done. And then you got some political, I guess cauldrons, I would say, is the best way to put it, that are working a little bit harder than they have been in the future because things are changing so rapidly. Are Are you optimistic about what's going on? And I mean, from a Paul Quinn perspective, from a Work College Network perspective, are you optimistic about your thing? And are you optimistic about higher education at large?
Well, I would hope it was optimistic because we just hired her. It would be terrible to be bummed out this soon.
Don't be too honest now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, to that point, I was just hired and I am very optimistic. As far as I know, there is absolutely no model within higher education that is like the Global Urban Work College Network that is using the activist model of education to both identify and eradicate problems that have persisted in the demographic, with the students that we're working with our partner institutions. I don't know of an institution that is doing this. I don't know of a network of institutions that is doing this. Let me backtrack. As an HBCU graduate myself, I would say our HBCUs have been doing the work since their inception. So that's not to say that HBCUs are not doing the work of identifying and eradicating. I don't know that there is an intentional network that is being put to use to do this through the Work College model that Paul Quinn College has found success in. And so that is to say, I am extremely excited. Like I said, I'm an HBCU graduate, so it's great to be back on an HBCU campus and with an HBCU community and with colleagues. And of course, I don't even have to say, it goes without saying that President Sorrell is the best. So I'm excited for my position, for the college, and just for what's to come for Paul Quinn and for the network in general.
Yeah, I have to tell you, Jerry, I'm super excited because one, what I always know is whatever we have going on right now, I got a couple other things in the bag, right? That will even answer a question like this one. I think in order for you to be optimistic, you have to have a plan. And we have a plan. We have a great plan. But I do worry about not so much the HBCU sector because, look, let's be honest. We are in a period where some states that we typically reside in are about as politically oppressive as they have been in a long time. It's this interesting dynamic, right? On one hand, you are doing things that certainly help and aid us. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, you are doing things that directly affect and negatively impact the communities from which our students come, our people come, right? So it's really sort of a very sinister way of doing it, right? Because, I used to be in the crisis management business, and it reminds me of something that someone once taught me, and they said, to really excel in this field, you must learn the art of smiling while you're putting a knife in someone's stomach, right? So that you are creating this cognitive dissonance where you are sitting there saying, I think I'm bleeding out, but why would someone be smiling at me while killing me, right? And so it's you have to be concerned because while the institutions may be having a renaissance moment, political pressure, our political influence is being threatened. Our ability to elect people who, represent our communities is being threatened. So as a sector, an HBCU sector, as a higher education sector, this is actually the moment where we should be finding our sea legs and using our voices and rising up, right? Because if we don't do that, let's just be very, very candid. If the voter suppression laws take hold, if Congress doesn't pass something which prevents states from doing this, we have codified the ability of legislatures to legitimize stealing elections. That's what's going on right now, right? If you can throw people out, throw out ballots, if you can contest fair outcomes just because you did not like them, then the essence of democracy, the essence of what has made this country who it is no longer exist. And if that protection is gone, what about those of us who come from marginalized places that need at least some form of a functioning government to protect our interests and our people? What do we do? So I think higher ed needs to stand up quickly, forcefully, loudly, and create an environment where we can protect those. Because the other thing about, and I'll get off my soapbox, the other thing about this is America's K through 12 educational system is now defined by poverty. The majority of students coming out of K through 12 schools in our country are coming from under-resourced communities. The entire South has over 50% of their students coming from low-income and poverty-engulfed communities. So if we don't fight for those individuals, what is to become of them? And newsflash, statistically, all those folks aren't black, right? So maybe this is a time that we build allies and we really extend our impact and our influence.